Well, we've got a huge news for you this morning. So much for George Kittle and the 49ers being really, really far apart. Kittle and San Francisco have agreed to a record contract extension. He surpasses Trey McBride and is again the game's highest paid tight end. Link to the article is in the description of this video. That is a look at the San Francisco Standard right now. Kittle and the 49ers agree to another record-breaking contract. First reported, we're going to give the proper credit by Bussin' with the Boys. Will Compton, Taylor Lewan, and that podcast. George Kittle, friends of the show, based in Nashville. Here is a look at the deal. 4 years, $76.4 million. If you do the division there, that comes out to $19.1 million a year. Now, the numbers may look familiar. About 3 weeks ago, Arizona's Trey McBride signed a contract for 4 years, $76 million flat, no 0.4, which came out to $19 million per year. There were some 49ers fans who were upset that San Francisco didn't beat Arizona to the punch. I'm sure that San Francisco would have loved to beat Arizona to the punch, but that's not the way this works. George Kittle is the game's best tight end. So he was waiting for Trey McBride to sign his deal so that he could usurp it. McBride's deal was actually necessary for this Kittle contract to be finished. You can see on this chart, I have it up on the San Francisco Standard. SF Data Niners did a great job visualizing the tight end market. This chart right here shows you that Kittle is just barely edged out McBride. 0.4 in total value and obviously 0.1, $19.1 million versus $19 million in average per year. So Kittle back up at the top of the heap. These are the money totals. 19.1, 19. Travis Kelce at 17.1. If you look at fully guaranteed money for NFL tight ends now, George Kittle has $35 million guaranteed at signing of this deal. Another $5 million will kick in 2027. I don't know if you can call that a full guarantee, but you can call it part of the total guarantees of this contract, maybe a practical guarantee a little bit later to bring the number to $40 million. Kyle Pitts, that's a rookie contract, I believe, a first-round rookie contract, $32.9 million. And McBride's deal was $32.5 million. Kittle's obviously usurps that. So the 49ers have a bargain for George Kittle, who is in line now, I think, to retire as a 49er. That has been the goal for San Francisco throughout this entire process. They want Kittle to be up on the 10-year wall. And guess who else they re-signed this offseason? The other longest tenured 49er. That is Kyle Juszczyk. Juszczyk joined the 49ers in March of 2017 as a free agent. George Kittle, while we're still on the theme of the draft, was a fifth-round draft pick in 2017. The 49ers also got another Iowa guy on the roster for him. He used to have CJ Beathard as his friend on the team. Now the 49ers have Connor Colby, an offensive lineman with whom Kittle can work over the course of this offseason, next offseason, maybe the next 4 years. We'll see how long both of those guys remain on the roster. But for Kittle and for Kyle Juszczyk, this is about to be year number 9. And that means that, well, the 10-year wall is an elusive goal for the 49ers and their players. John Lynch, though, the organization really, really covets getting a player up on that wall. And this regime has not even had a chance yet to get one of its own homegrown players up on that wall because they came in 2017. That 10-year mark is going to be in 2026 next year. Once a player finishes that 2026 season, he'll be up there. But I think if he's on the roster to be in 2026, it will count. So this being year 9 for Juszczyk and for George Kittle means that a contract extension was necessary for both of these players to have a chance at that decade-long run. Juszczyk obviously re-signed after the 49ers cut him earlier this offseason. It ended up being a big roundabout negotiation, but Juszczyk is going to be in line for the 10-year wall, and so is George Kittle. And this is huge for the 49ers because they're undergoing a youth movement this offseason. But even despite the fact that they're undergoing a youth movement, they are more committed to their veteran A-list core pillars than ever. Two things are happening at once. The A-list core players are the players that are shaded in yellow on this depth chart. Kittle is one of them at the tight end position. Juszczyk is another one of them at the fullback position. They paid McCaffrey last offseason. They paid Trent Williams last offseason. They paid Nick Bosa a couple seasons ago. They paid Lenore a few months ago. Fred Warner's in line now to get a new contract. And guess the cherry on top will be Brock Purdy. And that's more than the cherry on top. That is the meat in the middle. Brock Purdy is going to be the largest contract in 49ers history, and he's one of the A-list pillars of this football team. But you could see all the green on this depth chart. The green marks rookies. There are 17 rookies on this team now, and I project about 10 of them to make the 49ers 53-man roster. That's a lot of rookies to make the 53-man roster. So they're getting younger this offseason. They hope it makes them healthier. They hope it makes them faster. They hope it makes them hungrier. But you still need a rudder. You still need direction. And the central foundational core pieces, the weight-bearing walls of the building, are the star core pillars. And George Kittle is one of them. So re-signing Kittle, as he had been entering the lame duck year of his contract, re-signing Kyle Juszczyk, re-signing Brock Purdy, who's also entering the lame duck year of his contract, that is absolutely essential for the 49ers. So there are a lot of people that tried to argue that unsuccessfully that the 49ers were cheap, but they've now given out even more record-setting, like their lead in giving out record-setting contracts under John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan has just grown with this deal for George Kittle. Back in 2018, the 49ers handed out a record-setting contract at quarterback for Jimmy Garoppolo. A year before that, they handed out a record-setting contract at fullback for Kyle Juszczyk. Then 2020 rolled around, and the 49ers handed out a record-setting contract to George Kittle. That was worth 4 years, $60 million, $15 million per year. It shattered the tight end ceiling. But the 49ers realized you can get a deal at tight end because they are underpaid, especially the elite ones, given the market, compared to receivers. I'm going to show you an awesome graphic here in a little bit to illustrate the efficiency, the bargain that the 49ers got. But in 2021, San Francisco paid the highest amount ever for a tackle in Trent Williams. He set the market then. Later that year, they paid the highest amount ever for Fred Warner, a linebacker. In 2022, they gave Deebo Samuel one of the biggest wide receiver contracts in all of football. In 2023, they gave Nick Bosa one of the biggest contract for defensive player in the history of football. In 2024, they paid Brandon Ayuk $30 million a year, near the top of the receiver market. And now we move here into 2025. Brock Purdy may set the market for quarterbacks, or he'll be close to it, at least in the $50 million range, right? That's going to be coming this offseason. And George Kittle has now again signed at the top of the tight end market. So he was entering the final year of that deal, which was inked in 2020, and he's now re-upped 4 years, $76 million for the 49ers. And we could see just how good George Kittle is. First off, here's the contract. 4 years, $76 million, $35 million at signing, thanks to Bussin' with the Boys. This right here, though, is going to start to illustrate George Kittle's true value. Consider the fact that Jamar Chase of the Cincinnati Bengals, who just signed the contract that is the most valuable of all receivers in the NFL, consider that Jamar Chase is playing for over $40 million per year. Well, Kittle is at $19.1 million per year. It's the number here at the bottom. So Jamar Chase is making over twice as much annually as George Kittle, and his receiving efficiency isn't any better. So this is yards per route run. George Kittle has led all tight ends in yards per route run in 6 of the last 7 seasons. In some of these years, that number has been at the top of the heap when you even include wide receivers. Like, this is not supposed to happen, but it is happening. George Kittle's 252 pounds, and he's leading all targets and receiving efficiency, not just tight ends. In 2024, he was behind only Puka Nacua and Nico Collins among receivers with 2.62 yards per route run. It looked like things were dipping a little bit in 2022 for Kittle, but he has surged over the past 2 years as Brock Purdy has developed a firm rapport with him on this 49ers offense. And that's another big thing. If you're about to pay Brock Purdy, well, you better pay his favorite targets, right? You better make sure that Brock Purdy is comfortable moving forward, because you want to make sure that this offense is working at optimal efficiency moving forward. And Kittle and Purdy have obviously had a really good bond. But the fact that Kittle has topped this yards per route run chart, not just for tight ends, but also for receivers, means that he's one of the best targets in the game. On top of that, he has consistently graded amongst the top 3 in blocking. And somebody like Jamar Chase and all the other guys at the top of the receiving room cannot say that. They may be good blocking receivers, but George Kittle is more comparable to an offensive tackle when it comes to blocking. So you have this dual threat weapon in George Kittle that's making less than half of what the top receivers are making. It is a market inefficiency. It's not fair to the tight ends. It's because there's a franchise tag that's limiting that tight end market. I mean, there have been court cases over this, right? Jimmy Graham even tried to sue against the tight end franchise tag about 10 years ago. And I don't think it worked, because we're still in the same spot where George Kittle has raised the ceiling of the tight end position, but it still is about 50% of the wide receiver ceiling. Still, that market inefficiency is something that the 49ers stand to benefit from. And that's why they were able to strike this bargain deal with George Kittle, who is a future Hall of Famer. Hands down, point blank. There's no debating that anymore. This guy's 4 1,000-yard receiving seasons, 6 Pro Bowl selections, and he has now twice been the NFL's highest paid tight end. He's going to turn 32 this year, and he has not been slowing down. 2 straight 1,000-yard seasons. I still remember the off-schedule play against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this past year, which was absolutely epic on both ends for Brock Purdy and for George Kittle. But the way that he has trained his body, he's been able to fight through the injuries that are inevitably going to happen at the NFL level. But he has trained himself to be so good in so many nuanced ways. And I think the toe tap at the sideline, which Kittle's become a master at, is emblematic of his attention to detail. That was a toe tap kind of play against Tampa Bay, right? Purdy was scrambling around, moving to his left, and then he found Kittle in the back corner of the end zone. That is rapport that doesn't just happen between two players. There's a lot of hard work that goes there, and there has to be a lot of talent on both ends of a play like that. And that's the type of talent that you pay for at the NFL level. And I just view that connection as very, very symbolic, because the 49ers are going to pay Purdy this offseason as well. So Kittle and Purdy, the two guys are going to receive these massive contracts in the 2025 offseason on the 49ers offense. They connected on that play, and I look back at that as wow, that changed a game that was going south for the 49ers. It was Purdy to McCaffrey first. Well, they already took care of McCaffrey last offseason. Should probably mention in my list of contracts, the 49ers have also paid Christian McCaffrey at the very top of the running back market. So this team is the opposite of cheap. They're paying out the biggest contracts in the NFL at scale. It's like this massive operation. Every offseason, we see the biggest deal at a certain position in the NFL. But that drive included Purdy to Christian McCaffrey and Purdy to George Kittle. And both were these seismic superstar-fueled connections, exemplary plays that went beyond what you see at the run-of-the-mill level in the NFL. And those are the ones that you're willing to pay for. Those are the ones that differentiate you. If you guys want a cross-sport example, right now we're watching the Warriors and the Rockets. It was a hell of a game again last night. There's a hell of a game a couple days ago. The Warriors are now up 3-1 in the series. The Rockets are the higher seed than the Warriors. They're the 2 seed and the Warriors are the 7. But I think that the Warriors are the better team. And so far it's shown that they're the better team because they have star power and the Rockets don't have nearly as much star power. The Rockets may have more depth. They may have a robust roster that allowed them to win more games in the regular season. But when the chips are down in the postseason, it's so important to have guys in the most critical moments who are a notch above the rest, who are able to deliver the big-time plays at the biggest moments. The Warriors have Steph Curry, they have Jimmy Butler, they have Draymond Green, and the Rockets just can't match that from a legend standpoint, from a true star power standpoint. Well, the same dynamic works in the NFL. You have to have that star core. And I think that the 49ers, they do have that star core. Now, you have to have both. The 49ers, last year, they had the star core, but it was injured. And I don't think that they had the necessary depth and the necessary youth and the necessary speed that comes with that and the hunger that comes with that to make things work. In football, it's even more important than a sport like basketball. That's what they've tried to rebuild through this NFL draft. But first and foremost, you have to take care of that star core. And that star core is shaded here in yellow. Kittle is part of it. And with this contract extension, the 49ers have taken care of a key part of the star core. Mike says he has video of Kittle signing his deal. Awesome. Well, Mike, if you have video of Kittle signing his deal, please send it this way, because we will play it on the show. Pretty cool news for you guys to wake up to, right? It is 7:21 a.m. on the West Coast. I'm always up early because I got to work out. I got to do all this stuff, and I have to do lives about George Kittle. We've extended an invite to George Kittle to join the live. I don't know if he's going to be able to read it in time while we're still live. I'm sure that he's a busy guy right now. But wouldn't it be neat if George hopped on here for at least a couple minutes? I've covered Kittle since 2017. That was the first year that I started covering the 49ers. Why don't we play the video of George Kittle signing his contract with the 49ers?
Let's go, Mike. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, you good?
Yeah. Pretty happy. Why not? Third contract, same football team, great foundation, great organization. Pinch myself right now. Happy to be here. Oh, you have John's name on it. You might not get this, John. You might not get this one back. Ooh, that was really good.
I remember watching film with Skinny Kid in Iowa. We were watching CJ.
Oh, I know. I'm telling you, one private workout with CJ Beathard got me a job.
Right? It's been a good thing for us.
Oh, it's
Great thing. I'm proud of you, man. I'm happy, John. I'm appreciative of everything.
See you guys.
There's Claire making a little cameo at the very end. George's wife, Claire Kittle, third contract with the 49ers. The first one, he was a fifth-round pick in 2017. That really started the 49ers' big-time run of success in the middle rounds, middle to late rounds. I mean, that was way before they picked Brock Purdy in the seventh round. In between that in 2017 and Purdy in 2022, they picked Jawan Jennings in the seventh round of 2020. I think Jawan Jennings is another player who should get re-upped this offseason. He is entering the lame duck year of a contract. It was only a 2-year extension last year. So, you know, if you're looking at guys to get extensions this offseason, obviously Kittle, obviously Purdy, maybe Fred Warner, although he's still got 2 years left on his deal. So the 49ers would be acting very, very soon there. But if Warner is willing, I think the 49ers should be willing to, and I think they are as well, because he's the best linebacker in the game. But the one that people aren't talking about is Jawan Jennings, who, you know, Kittle lives out in that Nashville area. That's where Jawan Jennings is from. So in the offseason, it's cool to see him over there when he runs his football camp over in Murfreesboro. I think that would be another lower round draft pick, a seventh round guy whom the 49ers would be smart to find an agreement with this offseason. And, you know, there was so much talk about, the 49ers, they drag out these contract processes. A lot of them have gone to training camp, beyond the start of training camp. Not this one with George Kittle. I think that there were firm parameters here. I don't think this was a hard deal to execute. I think it was rather comical last week when there was talk that Kittle and the 49ers are far apart. It's like, why would they be far apart? It shouldn't be that hard to set the top mark at the tight end position by just a little bit. And that's nothing to haggle over, because George Kittle's the top tight end in the game. There was no reason for this to ever be difficult, and it wasn't difficult. It's done by the end of April. George Kittle edges out Trey McBride. Again, 4 years, $76 million for Trey McBride, 4 years, $76.1 million for George Kittle, who becomes the game's highest paid tight end again. There was a little blip there. I think, well, it was longer than the McBride deal. There were a couple guys ahead of George Kittle on the list. Travis Kelce was one of them. I think Hawkinson was a little bit ahead of him as well. But now he's back at number one in APY for tight ends, just as we expected. I mean, there's always a balancing act that you play when a player is going to turn 32 years old. But the good news for the 49ers is that George Kittle has not been slowing down. He's still in the middle of his prime. This is why, though, a third contract is rare in this league, especially a third one that is a record-setting deal, because the average age of the NFL player is 26 and a half years old. Kittle's going to be 32 years old this season, so he's way older than the average NFL player. But that's a testament to how great he is, the fact that he could be playing prime football against guys much younger than him. And then, this is where you get the holy grail of a future Hall of Famer, is when you can get the mind of a 30-something, right? Somebody that's been in the league for nearly a decade, so he's accumulated a lot of institutional experience. He knows all the tricks of the trade. You get that mind and you combine it with a body that's still in its prime. Normally, you don't have that. Normally, the guys that are 32, 33 years old, they're still playing. They might still be playing, but their bodies cannot go toe-to-toe with the guys who are 25, 26, 27, 28 years old in the National Football League. But in the case of George Kittle, I think that it seemed to me he was still playing through something this past year, but he seemed healthier than ever. It seems that he has figured out, and he's built himself his own training facility out there in Nashville, out in the barn, out on that farm. It seems to me that George Kittle has perfected and peaked and is peaking as we speak physically. And that gives the 49ers a lot of confidence to get a deal like this done right now, especially since tight end is such a discount. $19 million is a bargain, considering the fact that the top receivers like Jamar Chase are above $40 million now. So it's half off for the same type of receiving efficiency and even greater blocking efficiency. This was never going to be a hard deal to get done. It just had to get done. And guess what? The 49ers are now climbing up the rankings again in spend. Once we have the details of this contract, we'll know exactly how much George Kittle got paid out via signing bonus and how much is scheduled to come his way via that signing bonus and the base salary in 2025. So we'll be able to calculate just how much the 49ers will rise on the 2025 spending charts. After Kittle and Brock Purdy's new contract, which is still being worked on, are accounted for, the 49ers should be back up in the top 5, maybe even the top 3, maybe even number 1 in 2025 annual spending. So through this, you can see how ridiculous it is that people were saying that the 49ers are cheap. They're literally on track to be one of the NFL leaders in spending. And they were one of the NFL leaders in spending last year. And they have been one of the NFL leaders in spending over the years, basically ever since George Kittle signed his first contract extension back in 2020. So it's important that we deal with facts and not fiction in this matter. Maybe some more truth instead of emotion in this matter. And I think that the contractual stuff that is getting done and will get done with Kittle and Brock Purdy helps underscore this. Diameter Lenore chimes in. Let's get Demo's thoughts up on the screen. Demo had signed a really big contract for the 49ers just a few months ago. Now Demo says this right here up on Instagram. Deserve it, best in the world. He is locked in. George is locked in with a 4-year extension. That is from Lenore. The 49ers, the last 2 that they've gotten done have been done on the early end, right? Diameter Lenore, actually in-season extension last year. They got him at a hell of a rate. He's like the 10th highest paid corner in football now. And George Kittle, I mean, this could have been $25 million a year, and it still would have been value for the 49ers relative to where those top receivers are, who are in the 40s, right? 40 versus 19.1 million per year. This is a no-brainer for the 49ers. They're able to get it done. Nice momentum for them exiting the NFL draft. Speaking of which, there's my alarm to wake up at 7:30. You guys hear that? This is like a jarring noise. That's funny. We're turning off the alarm. I woke up early though, because I sensed something was coming. You guys, we've been talking about it here the last couple of days, right? Been talking about potential numbers. I thought around 20 million per year. He edges out Trey McBride by $100,000 per year, not by $1 million per year, by $100,000 per year. So George is gonna have to wait. He'll have to wait another 3 years or so before maybe he could sign a deal worth 20 million annually. That'd be wild if George Kittle set the market at again for a fourth contract. I don't think that's going to happen, but I do think that George Kittle is going to be in the Hall of Fame. And, you know, one of the cool things that the 49ers do is that if a player is with them for 10 years, then he gets up on the 10-year wall. There's a hallway in the team facility where there's a wall of all the players that have been with the team for 10 years. And this really lays the foundation for Kittle, and the deal with Kyle Juszczyk a couple months ago laid the foundation for, or it was just about a month and a half ago. Yeah, it wasn't that long ago for Kyle Juszczyk. Laid the foundation for these guys being with the team for 10 years. And, you know, when you're talking about a youth movement and when you're talking about building longevity in a league where it's obviously not easy to do that given the high injury rates, given the short careers, you have to pick the right durable veteran pillars to be guiding lights for the constant youth infusion that is going to happen in the NFL. And I think that there are very few better examples of guideposts, of foundational pillars than the two whom the 49ers have re-signed this offseason, in Kyle Juszczyk and George Kittle. I'm going to open it up to some questions. Been talking for about 30 minutes. Everybody should go check out the San Francisco Standard. Do it right now. There's an entire article up. I'm already doing a full video. We're running laps around everybody else here early in the morning. So go ahead and check it out. The link is in the description. I think you should definitely sign up to the San Francisco Standard, not just because of this Kittle article, but also there's another piece right here that I've got to show you guys. This one came out yesterday. And there's nothing like this out anywhere else either. It is a 53-man roster projection. 49ers have just added 17 rookies to the building. They've added 17 rookies, and they've re-signed the second longest tenured guy, George Kittle. So anyway, the 53-man roster projection is super in-depth. We're looking at every single position. We're looking at potential practice squad spots. There's Alfred Collins out of Texas. A lot of good pictures. Carrie, shout out to Carrie Crowley, new editor at the San Francisco Standard, did a great job fixing this piece up. So that's up there, the 53-man projection, and so is this Kittle contract that was up bright and early this morning to make sure that the news was processed for you guys. So a couple things that you can do to support is hit the like button. You can hit the subscribe button. You can become a member, but what you should do is you should subscribe to the San Francisco Standard. The link is in the description. It is the most in-depth, best 49ers written coverage there is, and we would appreciate to see you guys there. Again, link in the description, maybe even link in the comment section. Who wants a link in the comment section? Here we go. Link is coming into the comment section. There you guys go. It's in the comment section. You check it out. That's the live chat, I guess I should say. I'll put it into the comments section when I'm done with the video. Texas Niners says he's a member. He is. Everybody else should join. And let's enjoy our morning. Let me get some water. I don't even have my coffee yet. I haven't even had a chance to leave the apartment, walk down the street and get some coffee so we can have some of the Crystal Geyser instead. Looking through some of your questions. So Brock Bowers is definitely not better than George Kittle. I saw this comment and I just have to laugh. You guys realize how much more efficient George Kittle is than Brock Bowers? Here, for those who think that Bowers is better than Kittle, I have the graphic that will blow up every single one of your theories. You can have a look at this. Tight ends, EPA per target on the x-axis and yards per route run on the y-axis. This is not even including blocking, and Kittle's a better blocker than Brock Bowers. So there's one tight end here who is an alien. It's not Brock Bowers. It's not Trey McBride. It's not Mark Andrews. It's not Isaiah Likely. It's not Mike Gesicki. It's not Sam Laporta. It's not Dallas Goedert. It is this guy up here, George Kittle. I mean, just head and shoulders above every other tight end in the NFL. So I think it's rather ignorant to say that Brock Bowers is better than George Kittle. It's not close. It is not close at all. George Kittle is indisputably the best tight end in the game. It's so indisputable that they're waiting for Trey McBride to sign his deal so that George Kittle could sign a deal bigger than McBride's. So it's one of those where there's George Kittle, there's a massive gap, and there's everybody else. And that's what it's like to watch a Hall of Famer in the middle of his career. The 49ers have that luxury. And as long as he keeps on playing at this level, they'll be happy giving out contract extensions that are records to George Kittle. Have I heard anything about the development of Mason Pline? Well, this is interesting to me. The 49ers, when building their team through the draft, which you can see here, addressed all but one position group. There are rookies at every single position group, as you can see here in green, except for tight end. They did not add a new tight end. What does that mean? Well, I think it might indicate that San Francisco is indeed happy with Mason Pline's development. He's the only guy on the right side of the dividing line here. So if Pline does take that next step, you should look out if you're Braden Willis. You might even want to look out if you're Jake Tonjes. Mason Pline could grab another step forward in the 49ers hierarchy. He is a former basketball player who was still a very raw prospect when they signed him last year. From all I've heard, they've been happy with his development. I'm not sure exactly where he's going to fall on the developmental curve by the time the 49ers cut down the roster, but by then he's going to have 2 training camps under his belt, so I think the 49ers will have a very good idea of where they stand. Speaking of Pline, I mean, he was at tight end U last year, and tight end U is George Kittle's brainchild. Runs it in Nashville over the course of the offseason. I've covered that in most of the past few years. Always a great time. He's raised the profile of the tight end position, probably helped raise the pay scale at the tight end position. Kittle's now at $19.1 million annually, and I believe that's right around where Christian McCaffrey is pay-wise. It's actually a really good thing to look up here. See where I think they might be at almost the same APY. Let's look. Christian McCaffrey over the cap. McCaffrey's at 19. So McCaffrey's at exactly 19. George Kittle's at 19.1. McCaffrey's at about the amount that Trey McBride is at. Not total contract value, but in the APY. Do I think it's a problem that 75% of the 49ers starting defensive line are rookies? I know they're good, but that's a lot of inexperience. Well, they had really no other choice. They went veterans last year, and it was a problem. So now you got to go younger. Do I think they'll be growing pains? Absolutely. The Rams, I mean, they built this defensive line very similarly. They drafted 4 guys last year. The 49ers drafted 3. They had 2 starters from that defensive line. There were growing pains for the Rams, for sure. But they turned it around by December. I think they were like number 27, number 28 defensively through the first 3 months, and they were number 5 over the last month in the playoffs. So you go with the growing pains, you fight through them, you endure them, and then you come out on the other end better for it. The good news for the 49ers is that you have tremendous offensive leadership. You've got Brock Purdy, you have George Kittle, who just re-signed. I think the offense is going to have to be the locomotive that pulls the train for the first part of this 49ers season. We had speculated that ever since, the defense was bad last year for San Francisco. That's the thing. So I think it had been obvious that the offense was going to have to be the locomotive that pulled the train until the defense got its act together. And we knew that the defense would have to get its act together through youngsters, through the NFL draft. So that's where the 49ers are right now. Can I rank Purdy on my efficiency charts and determine what his salary should be? I've already done that. We've done that so many times that we had all these contract projections. It's going to be in the 50s. It could even cross over into the 60s. It's all a cap inflation argument. Brock Purdy could also say, hey, it's going to be a little bit less because I don't want to drag this out until training camp. There's so many different factors that go into what the final number is actually going to be. And also the final number is, I think, from an actual nuts and bolts standpoint, not as important as the fully guaranteed number. So there's a couple numbers that we obviously have to look at, but it's clear at this point that this deal is going to be one of the most valuable in the NFL. And obviously that means over 50 million. Is there a chance it's over 60? Probably. But again, that doesn't really matter all that much, because whether or not it bumps up over Dak Prescott's number in APY typically is just a vanity play. So it might be important for the agent. It might be important for the player, but a lot of that is based on money that isn't guaranteed anyway, that will probably be renegotiated at some point. So as a general parameter, we can say that it's going to be above 5-0, and we'll figure out where the fully guaranteed money is. But Brock Purdy has been the most efficient quarterback in football ever since 2022, since he joined the league, and that's paved the way for the deal that he is going to get. When do the rookies show up? That's a question here from Mike. Well, rookie minicamp is not this weekend, but the next. So I think report day for the rookies for minicamp is going to be next Thursday. And then following that is when we will have the OTA session. And George Kittle, I'm guessing he's going to be at OTAs. Now, let's just take a while to realize how ridiculous last week was. I know that this is now in the rearview mirror because the NFL draft has happened and stuff moves quickly in the NFL. But last week we were dealing with this insane drama that was purely media created. Oh my God, George Kittle is not at the 49ers offseason program. All this and all that. And it's like, could we, take a deep breath here and realize that he normally isn't at this portion of the offseason program? And then it's contract related. Kittle himself was like, this is ridiculous. Had to take to social media and say that the reports were false. There are also reports that he and the 49ers were far apart on a contract. And, well, it turns out that they weren't all that far apart. Kittle and the 49ers have agreed to a contract extension worth $19.1 million annually. And the reason that that they weren't all that far apart is that it was always patently obvious where the 49ers would have to go with this contract. If Trey McBride signed a deal for $19 million annually 3 weeks ago, George Kittle was going to have to be over $19 million annually. He's going to have to be $19.1 million. So the template was there for the 49ers. They literally used it. I mean, I have the graphic up on the screen right here. This is McBride, as you can see. Maybe that's a little too small for you guys here. We'll get this up on the screen a little bit bigger. SF Data Niners does a great job with these graphics. So McBride, $76 million over 4 years. Kittle, $76.4 over 4 years. It's just a slight incremental step up over McBride's deal, which is exactly where we expected it to be. I thought it'd be 20. I thought it'd be 4 for 80 or 3 for 60. This is better for the 49ers because they get an extra year of team control. And I think George Kittle is fine with that because he wants to be with the 49ers for the rest of his career. So this was not complicated business. And there was all this talk and all this drama last week inferring that it was complicated business. And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. This is the media trying to make things more dramatic than they actually are. And that is exactly what was the case. '49er Brian says Kittle's greater than Kelsey. I would agree. I think Kittle's a better tight end than Travis Kelsey. Kittle is one of the most complete players that we've seen in the history of the game. I would say that George Kittle, if you cloned him and had 11 George Kittles on your offense and 11 George Kittles on your defense, and you did that with any other player in the NFL, I think that the team full of George Kittles would be the favorite to win a Super Bowl. That's how special he is physically. 4'5", 40, over 250 pounds for George Kittle. If you're not wrapping your head around how impressive that is, Mike, do you have a relative athletic score for George Kittle while we're in draft mode? We could put that up here. Maybe there's one from 2017. That's something that you need to step back and realize, hey, guys about 50 pounds heavier than George Kittle struggle to run that 40 time in the NFL. 50 pounds lighter, sorry. Guys that are 50 pounds heavier are not running that 40 time in the NFL. Guys who are 50 pounds lighter at 200 are struggling to run the 40 time that George Kittle is running. Now, here we go. Here's the relative athletic score for George. Mind you, he's a little bit heavier now than he was when he put this number up. But this is good stuff. You will see absolutely elite metrics for George Kittle across the movement marks. There he is. So the size grade at 6'4", 247, he was a little bit smaller, especially than the typical tight end back in 2017. But speed, 4.5, elite. 20-yard split, 2.65. 10-yard split, 1.59. Look at the explosion grade down here for George Kittle. Let's get the text title out of the way. Vertical jump, 35 inches. Broad jump, 11 feet. The short shuttle is insane. A 4.07 short shuttle? Are you kidding me? That shows why he's such a good pass blocker. That's why they keep him in to pass block. Now, Kittle's going to be deployed on more pass patterns this year because they were able to sign Luke Farrell to handle some of that job. But a 4.07 short shuttle and a 6.7, 6.3 cone, those are some epic numbers that George Kittle has delivered for his athletic testing. This was back in 2017 at the Combine. Now, he only had 30-something, maybe 40-something catches in college at the University of Iowa, which is one of the reasons why he slipped down to the 5th round. So the 49ers have been enjoying a bargain rate on this premium talent for nearly a decade now. Back in 2017, they only had to spend a 5th round pick on a player who quickly became a superstar. Then, even though he shattered the tight end pay ceiling in 2020 at $15 million per year, it was still a bargain for the 49ers because, I mean, these are some of the most enviable numbers that we have ever seen out of a prospect in the NFL. And he's taken that and he's learned how to apply consistency. He's taken his physical gifts and he has turned into a machine that delivers year in and year out. That's why he's going to be in the Hall of Fame. That's why he's going to be wearing the gold jacket one day up there in Canton. What's with you and relative athletic score? Well, I like dealing with facts. Unlike other places, I don't just sit here and speculate all the time. I like actually giving you guys measurable indicators of how good a player is. I don't just sit here and pretend make something up and say, okay, this is what makes George Kittle good. I don't just talk out of my ass if we want to use slightly more crude terms here. I like to actually put numbers behind things because that's data and that is a way to prove things. That's a way to speak objectively. There are a lot of YouTube channels and a lot of Twitter accounts and just social media in general that is very subjective. We're one of the few that's objective here. So that's why I like going to the relative athletic score. I think it helps illustrate how special of a player George Kittle is. And then you can compare 49ers draft picks to Kittle, and they've gone for high relative athletic score guys. You know what's really funny is that we were talking about all the draft picks this offseason on the defensive side of the ball, and the 49ers had a certain type, and it was guys who were red in the size department and green everywhere else. So the color coding of the relative athletic score chart for Nick Martin, for Upton Stout, for Marquise Siegel, for all these guys was very similar as the one that we see here for George Kittle. It's like George Kittle is the original prototype for San Francisco. Now, I know that this is a different side of the ball, and I know that George Kittle's not small, but it's just funny. Maybe this is foreshadowing for the type of players that the 49ers were going to draft in 2025. 49ers all-time receiving leaders. This is really good. George Kittle is number 3 on the all-time receiving yardage list. 7,380 yards. Terrell Owens is number 2, and Kittle has a chance to pass him this year, although it will take a big year for George. Terrell Owens is 8,572 yards. Number 1 is not getting passed anytime soon. It's Jerry Rice, 19,247 yards. So Kittle, I think if things progress the way that they've been going, will end up as the second all-time leading receiver in San Francisco 49ers history. Meanwhile, receptions, Kittle, 538. Terrell Owens, 592. Jerry Rice, 1,281. So simple math. Kittle is 54 catches shy of Terrell Owens, not 54 shy of Jerry Rice. We're going to go to George Kittle's Pro Football Reference page to see how many catches he's been averaging per year. This past year, he had 78. The year before that, he had 65. 2022, 60. 2021, 71. He had 43 his rookie year in 2017. That's a career low. 2020 played half the year. He had 48. So I think 54 catches, if George Kittle stays reasonably healthy, is in the bag. He should pass Terrell Owens for receptions all time with the 49ers. We got people thinking that Kittle's underrated. This is a member, by the way. You guys can all sign up for memberships to the channel. I think he's underpaid, even though he's the top paid tight end in the game. It's a hell of a deal for the 49ers, but it's also still generational money for George Kittle. Well, yeah, I would think so. If you beat a Jerry Rice receiving record, you're probably a Hall of Famer. Yeah, I mean, I would hope so. But nobody's beating any Jerry Rice receiving records anytime soon. That said, if you beat a Terrell Owens receiving record, you're also a Hall of Famer. And I think George Kittle, this is just Owens with the 49ers, but that's still impressive because Kittle plays that tight end position. If we're comparing Kittle to wideouts with some of these numbers, George is doing a lot right. Jerry Rice's career was insane. You could indeed take his 20-year career, cut it to 10 years each, and both would be Hall of Fame careers. I've gone through this many times. The numbers for Jerry Rice just break your brain. It's Barry Bonds level dominance statistically, but in the game of football. Anything else you guys need to know? You should go to the San Francisco Standard. Here's the article up on George Kittle. I, of course, can answer a few more questions. We got an invite out to Kittle to join the show, but unfortunately, he might not currently be available. Let's see. I haven't checked my texts here in a little while. Maybe a little bit later. We don't have the structure of the contract yet. As soon as the contract is out, we'll have that for you. What I can tell you is that Kittle had been scheduled to make, let's go to his existing or original contract before this one. Up on Over the Cap. I always like to take a look at the original one when I make my analysis of the new one. He was scheduled to make a $14.4 million base salary and had about $600,000 in bonus money. So he had been scheduled to make $15 million in 2025. He's up to $19.1 million per year. I'm sure the cash flow will be higher than that this year because of the signing bonus. So, this is going to be good. We can go to the 49ers salary spend. You guys will enjoy this. Those of you who are pulling your hair out because the 49ers have been called cheap, even though they're not, we can go to the NFL team salary cash tracker for 2025. So this is on Spot Rack. As you can see here, and sorry if this is a bit hard to read, but I think it should be fine. 49ers number 19 before this Kittle deal. They've spent $269 million in cash so far this year. Say that Kittle gets $20 million in cash this year. It's going to be more because the signing bonus will be bigger. But even if it's just 20, you're going to up this $269 million number to $289 million. That would immediately vault the 49ers up to number 7 or number 8 in cash spent. I think he's probably going to be around 30 million cash flow this year. So if it's 30 million cash flow, that's going to move it up to 299 million, which would, it would still be number 6 or number 7. So just the Kittle contract itself is going to move the 49ers from number 19 in cash spend this year to about number 6 or number 7 in cash spend this year. Then if Brock Purdy brings in 60, 50, 60, 70 million this year, however much cash flow there is, that's going to vault the 49ers up probably, I think to number 1. They're going to be in the top 3 for sure after the Brock Purdy deal is done as well. The void years and all that, once the contract is actually out, I'll be able to answer that question for you. This might be the dumbest comment that we've ever seen in the history of the channel, and that's saying something. How could somebody who's injury prone, somebody's calling Kittle injury prone, be in line to play over a decade in the National Football League while you're sitting on your couch playing video games? Like, are we kidding right now? Like, he just signed his 3rd contract in the NFL. The average age in this league is 26 and a half, and the guy's about to be 32. I don't think he's as injury prone as you think he is. I don't think he's disappeared in the playoffs, considering the fact that I've seen him score touchdowns in the playoffs, and I've seen the 49ers be highly successful in the playoffs with George Kittle delivering for them. So please leave your ignorance at the door. Do not bring it on this channel anymore. That's a ridiculous comment. They want me to block that clown. The thing is, some people say, oh, that guy's just being a troll. There are some bad opinions out there. And it's not just on Kittle. Obviously, we see him on Brock Purdy. We see him on Kyle Shanahan. And it's like, not everybody should be talking. Like, it's like, find a way to at least tether your comments in some sort of reality before you speak. And right now, the reality is that George Kittle is once again the highest paid tight end in the NFL. It's a hell of a deal for the 49ers. And George Kittle is happy as well. We saw the video of him signing the contract with John Lynch's pen. The cool little moment for the 49ers, who are hoping to get Kittle up on that 10-year wall. Just taking a look to see how many of you we have watching. How many are there watching, Mike? I don't even have this available on my screen right now. Mike will let us know here early in the morning. Plus the personality of Kittle, too. You love to see it in the NFL, right? This is a league where superstardom moves the needle, obviously, in ways like, we talk about Brock Purdy throwing to McCaffrey and Kittle in that game against Tampa Bay, and we've seen all the big plays. But it moves the needle on the field, but I think it also moves the needle off the field. And people watch this for entertainment, and you can't tell us that George Kittle's not entertaining. He combines the entertainment portion of things with he's such a good arbiter of knowledge, right? Like, you go up to George in the locker room and you'll learn something about the game, and then you'll learn it in an entertaining fashion. And I think that's really worth something. He's a great ambassador of the sport, and the 49ers are happy to have him re-signed with them for 4 more years. The 49ers have indeed had some great tight ends over the years. So everybody hit that subscribe button. Why don't you head over to the San Francisco Standard? It is linked in the description. This is the article up on the Standard. We talk about the highest paid tight ends. Nice little picture of George Kittle there. The yards per route run, he's at the top of the heap year after year at the tight end position. He's up there with the best receivers in the game. It's this chart right here. We had somebody saying that Bowers was better than George Kittle earlier, and no, that's not the case. Kittle is in a world of his own. There he is in the upper right. Like, he's the outlying dot. And this is before you even include his blocking capabilities. Remember that he is doing what wideouts are at less than half the cost, even with this new contract worth $19 million, $19.1 million annually, just a little bit higher up than Trey McBride's contract. Brock Purdy will be next for the 49ers as far as these contracts go, unless they sneak in Fred Warner before then. But obviously, this front office means business as far as paying players this offseason. This was something that we knew was in the pipeline, and it's going to just be one of the big pieces of business that the 49ers execute this offseason. Vernon Davis. That's a blast from the past at this point. George has been around for so long. Mike is asking, how many record-breaking positional contracts have the 49ers executed? Well, let's count. Let's see how good I am. Let's see how well I could recall just off the top of my head. Jimmy Garoppolo, 2018. That's 1. Kyle Juszczyk, 2017. So I have to go back here. That's 2. George Kittle, 2020. That is 3. Trent Williams, 2021. That's 4. Fred Warner, 2021. That's 5. Kyle Juszczyk re-signed 2021. That's 6. Nick Bosa, 2023, defensive end. That is 7. George Kittle, 2025, that is 8. Is that 8? I think that's 8 positional record contracts for the 49ers. Am I missing one? I don't think so. They've signed big contracts to Deebo Samuel and Christian McCaffrey. Yes, I am missing one. Christian McCaffrey, that is 19 million per year last year for Christian McCaffrey. And, well, Trent Williams has signed twice with the 49ers at record-breaking numbers. That's 10. Yeah, Trent 2024, McCaffrey 2024. There you go. That is 10 positional record contracts that the 49ers have given out. They've given out more positional record contracts than any other team in the NFL with Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch here, and you have people calling them cheap. It's just absolutely absurd. I think at some point we have to deal in reality. At some point we can't be sitting here and just spitting out falsehoods. And the 49ers have given out 10 positional record contracts. That is absolutely staggering. I just went through them all in my head over the years. Amazing stuff. All right, guys, that's it. We've been going for over an hour. I think that's about right. The hour-long George Kittle contract show. If you want to support this show, go ahead and check out the San Francisco Standard. Go ahead and become a member of the channel. At the very least, hit the like button and toss in a comment. Put in a flex emoji or something of George Kittle has signed his new contract with the 49ers. The link is in the description to the San Francisco Standard. Thanks for watching. We'll talk to you guys soon.